to my bedroom. This is my steam engine. If you're on the Skookum subreddit, you've probably seen this thing before. It was on there, I think, last week. And you're probably wondering why I'm dressed up as a dinosaur. Well, it's because I'm a furry, and so is a large chunk of the Skookum subreddit. Just a lot of people haven't noticed. Also, why am I filming in VHS video quality? Well, some dumb commenter on there asked me to film in, like, low video quality. He made fun of my, mobile camera shit. I mean, it was not supposed to be a proper video or anything, and, you know what? Fuck you then. I'm gonna make this as low video quality as humanly possible, so I busted out my VHS camcorder from 1988. It's your fault. Blame him, not me. Never mind the fact that I was probably gonna film it on this thing anyway, because that's just kind of what I do on this channel. Anyway, this is a Weeden Model 20 steam engine. I have no idea what year this was made in. I know that the really early ones, the red part here, this was brass. Then on the later ones, it had like big giant number 20 on there, but this one doesn't have any boiler stamping on here. I just know it's a number 20. So I'm just gonna take a wild guess, and for convenience sake, just say it was made in 1920, because that would mean it's 100 years old right now, and that's nice. It's a nice round number. And since there's no other date stampings on here, the only thing on here is the little model, is the name sticker on here that just says Weeden Reg US Pat Off. That's the only identifying marking on this thing, so yeah, I'm just going to say it's from 1920. If anyone knows any better, feel free to comment it. But yeah, I found this at a yard sale. 2005, 2006, I think. I was in kindergarten at the time. I somehow convinced my dad to let me buy this thing for, I think it was like $20, $25. And, well, I made exactly one attempt to make it work, because it did not come with the filler cap here, which is also the safety valve on here, because it does have a safety blow-off valve originally, which it doesn't now. I tried to replace that safety valve with a piece of duct tape, which very obviously didn't work. And also, I didn't know what the hell the watch glass did, so I just filled this thing all the way to the top. So naturally, when it started to boil, which took forever because I filled it to the top, which meant like almost twice as much water as it was supposed to have, naturally, it just puked hot water at me, and then the duct tape that was working as a filler cap came off, and yeah, I just kind of chucked it in a drawer and forgot about it until last week sometime, and then I got it out and started messing around with it. And, once I got it kind of sort of working, that's when I posted it on the subreddit. Now, since then, I've done some things to it. For example, you'll notice it doesn't make that rattling, clanking sound it was making in the video before. Yeah, that's because I've actually sort of redone the bottom end on this thing. Basically, y'all can't see it. And you know what, y'all don't want to see my face. Anyway, I'm just going to readjust the camera real quick. Okay, wait, is that thing actually rolling? Let me check that. We're actually rolling. Notice this doesn't make any weird clanking noises anymore. That's because the original bearings for the crank were just brass grommets like you'd see used in leather work. They were just stuck through these little sheet metal tabs on the side of the firebox. Focus, you fuck. God damn it, I have to go threaten my camera. 1 second. Just do that. Let's see what that do. There we go. Good focus. I think. Maybe. Autofocus is off now. I can't see that well, but I think this is much better than it was. Yeah. Okay. Basically, these were just little brass grommets, like you would see used in leatherwork, stuck through tabs on the side of the firebox. And originally, those were just kind of in there. They weren't positively affixed, and then there were another 2 of those rivets that hadn't been crimped, just being used as spacers, I guess to keep the flywheel from hitting the side of the boiler, which it did a lot, and to keep this from just slopping around back and forth sideways. What I did was I uncrimped the two that were through the tabs because they had been very clapped out, and then I took up the excess slack with some solder. Then I stuck them back in and then soldered them into the tabs so they wouldn't go anywhere, because what had happened was I think this had been run without oil for quite a long time, because the tabs, the grommets had sort of stuck to the shaft, almost seized, and started spinning inside the sheet metal tabs instead of acting as a bearing like they were supposed to. So the tabs were very sloppy. So what I did was I just soldered them end to end and just kind of made these into actual proper solid bearings. And while I was there, I drilled little oil galleries in the grommets, and then I wrapped these a little bit of just cotton thread. It's the red stuff on the camera. I don't know if you can see that. So that I could put a little bit of steam oil on there and have a nice wick lubricator. I've also put a little wad of shop rag over here on the exhaust port, or no, not on the exhaust port, on the the vent port on the bottom of the cylinder, because it's a single acting engine. The top half of the cylinder is the part that actually makes power, and then this bottom part is just kind of an extra vent, and I think it's where you're supposed to oil it, but I have no idea if that's correct or not. But I put a little bale of shop rag on there so I can glob that full of oil, and this thing will oil itself instead of having to just keep dabbing it on every few minutes. There's no oil reservoir in this like there would be in a different engine. So yeah, the other thing is that I don't have the filler cap on here, but you'll notice this hole is square. So what I did was I just took a piece of a wine cork, drove a couple wood screws through it, and the threads on these screws hook into the corners of this, I can't see what I'm doing. There we go. Hook into the corners of that hole, and then you tighten it down and it cinches down. And then the hose clamp is just because when this cork gets wet, it tends to swell and just kind of disintegrate. The hose clamp prevents it from doing that. So yeah, that's how I'm making this work. And I'm not too concerned about that lack of a safety valve, because the cylinder is also on a spring. And I know that if this thing overpressures, it just shoots all the steam out of the gap between the cylinder, because this is a wobbler style oscillating cylinder steam engine, and there's no valve gear on this. It just uses the sliding of the cylinder up against the steam ports to control intake and exhaust. Now this could be converted to be a double acting engine, as it does have it's got holes on the cylinder and on the thing the cylinder bears on. I'm not sure what that's called. That I could run a hose down to the bottom end so that this would be a double acting steam engine and it wouldn't stall out so easily like it does right now, but that would be kind of ruining a 100-year-old antique, so it's single acting for now. It's also kind of neat thing about it is it runs on oil or alcohol or something. And it's kind of weird because most of these engines, they'll run on either just liquid alcohol poured into a tray, or they'll run on hexamine fuel tablets. But this one, it runs on oil or on just denatured alcohol with a wick burner, which this is also the only speed control you get, is just how high you turn the wick up. Turn it down, turn it up. That changes the flame height, changes how much heat goes into the engine, changes how fast it goes. A little crude, but it works. There was also an electric version of this. I'm not sure if I mentioned this on the video or not, because I have ADHD and I don't remember. But there was an electric version of this that was basically, it just had a nichrome toaster heating element wrapped around a piece of mica stuffed inside where the chimney is on this. I don't know when they made that, but it's a much rarer version. Let's put it that way. And it's not super useful either because, well, for obvious reasons, is like basically, yeah, it's an electric powered steam engine. It can use way less wattage to just drive a regular old motor. But whatever. Anyway, y'all don't care about that. Y'all want to see me fire this thing up. So first thing we need to do is we need to pull this fuel filler cap out. This has to stay out while we're running it, because if you don't leave it out, the it has an annoying tendency for the fuel-air mixture inside the fuel tank to hit an explosive level, and if you slosh it, it'll suck a flame in here, and it'll just go whoosh, blow all the carbon out of the engine and into your face, and scare the shit out of you. It probably is also really not good for this fuel tank either, but it's happened to me about 3 times before I've actually looked up the manual and figured out that, yeah, you're actually supposed to run it with the filler cap off. So, yeah, I'm just gonna fill... I'm dumb. I'm just gonna fill this up with a little funnel here and a little denatured alcohol. There we go. It's got some number 2 heating oil in here right now because I tried running it on that, and the problem is that once you start running it on that, this methylated alcohol, the denatured alcohol, evaporates and fuel oil doesn't. So you basically end up diluting the fuel oil with alcohol to make it burn cleaner, and I'm spilling that. Whatever. It still runs on that, it just burns a little smokier, and it is actually mentioned in the manual that it can run on that, but like I said, it burns smokier and it soots up the boiler really badly, so I'm just going to add a little bit of, just going to mix in a little bit of denatured alcohol. It's got enough for a run. Other thing you're going to need to do is to, where is the focal point? There's the focal point, I think. Add some water to this. I'm going to turn it around because I'm trying to make it face the camera, but it screws with all of my right-handedness does not like that. I'm going to fill this, I'm going to fill this up until I can see some water in the watch glass. Which is hard because mesh eyes make it hard to see. Yeah, that's about, there's definitely some scale in that watch glass. That's about halfway full. It's acceptable. It had enough water in it, but not really a lot before I decided to make this video, so yeah, whatever. I'm just going to add a little bit of water to it, and yeah. Just gonna, which side did I have that? Yeah. There we go. There we go. This is not part of the original startup procedure, by the way. The original safety valve made way more sense, but this is my janky thing because I don't feel like buying parts for this. So yeah, I'm just gonna kind of screw these down so that it has some way of holding itself in, and just hope that works. It does not. How did I fuck that up? What have I done? See this. Nope. Nope. Maybe. Yes, okay. There's a special position on these screws that actually works the best, and you just kind of have to get a feel for it. Anyway, that wick looks vaguely level. Let me just turn that up just a little bit. I'm turning that down because I am backwards. And there we go. You can light that up and you can see it's already getting very sooty. So I'm going to put the boiler on top of that because this has a little bit of a draft effect on it. So yeah, boiler has a little bit of a draft, and that allows it to not smoke quite so badly. And yeah, this thing takes about 2 minutes to heat up. How much higher can I turn this before it starts smoking more? I'm turning that down because I'm backwards again. See any smoke from there. Yeah, whatever. It works. Oh, while we're waiting, now is a good time to oil this thing. For that, I'm going to use, I am trying to look in the mirror and my brain thinks it's looking. I'm trying to look in the monitor and my brain thinks it's looking in the mirror. I'm going to be using 85W140 gear oil because according to charts I found in mysterious sections of the internet, steam oil is AGMA number 7, which is equivalent to ISO 460, which is equivalent to 85W140. So I just picked up a $4 quart of gear oil, and that's what I've been using, and it seems to work quite fine. Originally I was using grease before I rebuilt the bottom end, but this is much nicer, so I'm going to put, while we're waiting for this thing to warm up, I'm going to put a little drop here on the, I can't see, wick for the axle box. I mean, not the axle box, for the crank. And then another one on the other side. That was way too much. And then a little bit, a dab on the top of the slidey bit that passes for valve gear. And another decent sized glob on the little bale of shop rag there. I used way too much. That's going to be all over it. That's why I have a paper towel down underneath this thing. Is because when I'm wearing mesh eyes, I have no depth perception. It's wonderful. So anyway, we just kind of have to wait for this thing to warm up. Oh, and this whistle valve is open. I just realized. But yeah. By the way, the manual does actually say to leave the whistle valve open because it's a good way to know when you've got steam built up. And this does not whistle, it's junky. The whistle is too small to really be useful, so it just hisses. But it is still a good indicator of when this is actually boiling, because you can kind of hear it, but you also kind of can't. And yeah, you just give it a little spin to work the oil in, I guess, and clean up all that spilled shit, and realize that you did not put the lid back on the water. That's useful. Has it been 2 minutes yet? Clearly not, because it's not steaming yet. Oh yeah, that was also a very good time to put on some welding gloves, because literally everything on this engine except for the flywheel gets hot. Because this brass here is the outside of the boiler as well as the inside of the boiler. It's single layer. And likewise, the fuel tank doesn't get that hot, but it does still get kind of warm, and then the burner, the firebox gets very hot. Cylinder gets hot. The only things that don't get hot is the handle on the whistle, which slides off, by the way, just pointing that out, and the spinny boy. And this does only spin over in one direction, and it does not auto start, so you do have to spin it in this direction to get it to start. Yes, I am still wearing my head right now. This is the part that really screws with my ADHD, is waiting for this thing to heat up. I can hear it about to get ready. I don't think you can hear that on camera though. But it's getting ready to start boiling in the near future. Yes, we're just waiting for this thing to get warm, aren't we? I could definitely use way too much oil on this because it's just kind of dripping down the sides. Thank God the enamel on that thing is reasonably sturdy, because otherwise there would be just, the paint would be coming off of that fuel tank. But thankfully, I think this is like baked on proper real enamel, so yeah, the only damage to the paint on that tank is from actual physical violence. Yeah, this thing's getting ready. I can see a little bit of steam coming out the whistle, but I don't think y'all can see that on camera. I can hear it's about to work though. What I can do is position the crank just past top dead center, so that if I close the valve it'll probably go down, but that's not enough to get it to start. Still waiting. Almost ready. There's a little bit of steam coming out the whistle. I don't know if you can hear that, but I can definitely hear that. So we can just close the whistle valve here and then spin that over. You need to build a little more pressure and then give that a little spin or not. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Push down onto the filler cap here because it seems to be leaking, as it tends to do. Come on. Do you think? There we go. Almost. Wait for some pressure to build up. That is leaking a lot. Tweak these screws a bit. There we go. I hear less steam leakage. So, there we go. See, the engine's starting to speed up. I'm going to turn this down just a tad. Once it gets going, it does, I'm not entirely sure what, but it does actually improve the draft on it a little bit. So once it's started to go, it does tend to get going better and allow you to turn the flame down a little bit. You can hear it's much quieter now that there's not so much slop in this thing. It also spins quite fast. You can see, I'm not sure if you can see that, but there is a little bit of leakage coming out around the watch glass, because while I did replace these seals at the top of the cylinder head as well as around the whistle, I have not replaced the watch glass seals, so this does leak a little bit. Oh yeah, that's one more thing that doesn't get hot is the flame adjuster. Ow. It does spit hot water at me though. And there's actually a little V-belt pulley on here, I don't know if you noticed that. It is capable of driving things, just not a whole hell of a lot. I've tried to make a generator run off of it, but I still haven't managed to get a useful amount of voltage out of it. I haven't even managed the 0.9 volts that's required to run like a boost converter or something for something higher. I've experimented with like using the commutation spikes on a DC brushed motor to drive a transformer to bring it up, but that hasn't worked that well, hasn't been enough power to be useful. Spin it around, or give that a little bit more flame. This seems to be slowing down. And just creeping off of the paper towel. Spitting water at me. Because there is no superheater in this thing, so the steam coming into the cylinder is pretty wet. If you overfill this, it will definitely just shoot water at you. Yeah, this is the video. Is this thing just runs. I want to zoom in a little more. Just come up there and zoom that a bit. And I gotta change the focus. There we go. You can see in the watch glass that this is down a little bit below half full. This thing runs quite a long time if there's no load on it. And there's enough oil in this tank to last for several entire tanks of steam because there is no feed water pump on this. The water you put in it is the water you get, which is just kind of the standard for model engines like this, or not even a model. This is really more of a toy. Y'all watch this. I gotta go to the bathroom. My room is really starting to smell like heating oil because I don't have a fume extractor like over in the lab. Yeah, this thing takes forever to run out. Yeah, I'm getting bored of this. Yeah, basically the way you shut this down is you just blow the flame out and the thing stops working. There we go. And it smokes a bunch. And it very quickly just runs down. Like that. And then you have to remember, while it's still kind of going, to open the whistle valve here. Since it has no safety valve anymore, there's nowhere for that to go, and otherwise it'll just start puking hot water out the side of the cylinder. So yeah, that's about it. If you enjoyed watching me screw around with a 100-year-old kid's toy, feel free to subscribe or spread this video around, or don't. I'm not your mom. Subscribe to me for more completely unrelated videos, because this is not something I've featured on my channel before. Bye!